Wow, you really weren't kidding when you said you dug up some stuff on these Lifewave X39 patches, boosting energy, athletic performance, even like turning back the clock on aging. It's a lot to unpack. And we've got a lot to go on, too. We've got actual clinical studies, the patent, even an interview with the inventor, thanks to Stu Peters. So
It's definitely an interesting mix of material.
definitely should give us plenty to, try to separate the science from the hype, right?
Absolutely. Hype is always tempting, but we want the facts.
Exactly. So let's see. We've got this one study here. It's all about the metabolic and physiological effects. Oh, and this other one that goes deep on like specific tripeptide changes from the patches, which is a whole other.
And the patent itself can be surprisingly revealing. It's not just legal jargon. Sometimes you get glimpses of the thought process, the mechanisms they're aiming for.
Right. Like, what are they actually claiming their invention does? Which is where I guess having you here to make sense of it all is kind of essential.
Well, I can certainly try. At the core of it, they're talking about phototherapy. Most people have heard of it in some form. It's used for certain skin conditions. Even wound healing's got light therapy treatments now. What Lifewave is claiming is that their X39 patches use this light therapy, but specifically target something called GHK-Cu, and that's a naturally occurring copper peptide we have in our bodies.
Okay, so we're already at copper peptides and light therapy. Sounds a little, I don't know, sci-fi, maybe? For those of us who haven't spent much time, in a lab coat, what are these peptides? What's the connection to all these, supposed benefits?
Think of GHK-Cu like your body's own little repair signal. So when you get injured, your body releases this to, like, kickstart the healing process.
Makes sense.
But here's where it gets really interesting. The research on GHK-Cu suggests it might be doing a lot more than just, like, fixing wounds. There's a potential role in nerve health, collagen production, and that's where these anti-aging claims come in. Because collagen, that's what keeps our skin looking
Young.
exactly.
So what they're saying is these patches, they can sort of like hack our biology using light to make our bodies create more of this GHK-Q.
That's the idea they're going for. Amplify this natural repair signal, and supposedly all these good things start happening. Fascinating concept, really. But of course, the big question is, does it actually work, like they're saying?
Right, because there's no shortage of products out there with, big promises. Before we get into the actual studies, you mentioned they have a patent on this. Does that tell us anything useful?
It does give some insight into their intended mechanisms, at least. The patent focuses heavily on the design, and there's this whole bit about left-handed molecules.
Yeah.
Now, that sounds strange,
It does.
but it's actually referring to chirality, which is, well, imagine how your left and right hand are both hands, but mirror images. Molecules can be like that, too.
Okay, so it's getting a bit technical, but I think I'm following. So these left-handed molecules, what are they actually doing?
They believe, and this is where it gets a bit theoretical, that these specific molecules, along with what they call biomolecular components, think amino acids, minerals, things like that, they interact somehow with your body heat. And this reflected light, that's what they think, then triggers the production of GHK and GHK-Q.
So the patent's more like their theory, the how it's supposed to work, not proof that it actually does.
Exactly. Patents protect the invention. They don't guarantee it delivers on its promises. That's where the clinical studies you found come in.
And that's where we see if the science actually backs up, all these big claims. This first study, it was all about actually measuring the effects of these patches, like, real metabolic and physiological changes. And what's interesting is they specifically looked at adults between 40 and 65 years old, which, I mean, if you're going for that whole anti-aging angle.
Makes sense to focus on the demographic most likely to be interested, right? And within that age group, there were some interesting shifts. One of the key findings was a significant change in amino acid levels. And remember, amino acids, those are the building blocks of proteins, crucial for all sorts of bodily functions.
So what kind of amino acid changes are we talking about? What does it even mean when those levels shift?
They notice a significant decrease in glutamate, which, if you got high levels, has been linked to inflammation. And they also saw a decrease in histamine, which is another one of those molecules involved in inflammatory responses.
So potentially less inflammation. I'm sure people listening are already perking up at that. What else did they see?
They found changes in other amino acids that are linked to the production of glutathione. And glutathione, that's a powerful antioxidant, helps protect our cells from damage. So we're talking about potential benefits even on a cellular level here.
Whoa, this isn't just about, like, feeling better. It's about protecting your body from, well, damage, basically. Okay, but what about the stuff you can actually feel? Did they find any evidence of those more immediate changes people were experiencing?
They measured a whole bunch of physiological markers, and they found that after just 1 week of using the patch, participants had a reduction in blood pressure.
Yeah, and that's huge, right? I mean, high blood pressure, it's a major risk factor for so many things. Heart disease, stroke, you name it. If this patch is really doing that and it's not invasive, that's pretty amazing. Definitely makes you wonder. Now, they didn't just like slap a cuff on these folks and call it a day, right?
Right.
What other things were they looking at health-wise?
Oh, they got pretty in-depth. Heart rate variability, blood volume pulse, even galvanic skin response, which is basically measuring the electrical activity of your skin.
Fancy. Anything interesting there?
They thought improvements in muscle relaxation,
Yeah.
which, I mean, think about it, that could be huge for people with chronic pain, or even just like everyday stress.
Oh, for sure. Way better than popping pills all the time if it works. What about the, I guess, the more mental side of things? They did those questionnaires, right? What did those show?
Sleep, memory, overall well-being, that sort of thing. And it actually lined up with some of the physical stuff, which is interesting. Like people were sleeping better, easier to fall asleep, felt more rested when they woke up, that kind of thing.
I could use some of that myself, honestly. Sleep is essential. What about memory? Anything there?
They had this whole subtest just for short-term memory recall. And after a week, yep, people were doing noticeably better at remembering information.
Wow. Okay, so better sleep, better memory, all in a week. I mean, it was a small study, right?
Definitely. Pilot study, got to emphasize that.
Mm-hmm.
These early results are promising. But to really know if it's legit, you need bigger studies, longer time frames, rule out any other factors that could be at play.
Gotta make sure it's actually the patches doing it, not just like good vibes or something. Haha.
Exactly. Speaking of which, you sent over that interview with the inventor, the one Stu Peters did. I gotta say, I was curious about that one, knowing how Stu can be.
Yeah, he doesn't really hold back. So what'd the inventor have to say for himself?
Well, he was really pushing that whole stimulating the body's natural healing thing, especially when it comes to energy production on a cellular level.
Yeah.
He kept mentioning ATP, which, if you're not familiar,
Not really, no.
it's basically the energy currency of our cells. Like, it's what makes everything run.
Okay, so more ATP, more energy for our cells, more energy for us. Makes sense, but how does that connect to the, age reversal, the athletic performance boost? How does more cell energy do all that?
His whole thing was, if you can get those cells producing energy at their peak, it's like you're giving your body the resources to thrive. He actually compared it to like upgrading your body's operating system so it runs smoother, better.
Interesting way to put it. But it does make you think, if something's affecting us at that level, the cells, no wonder it could have such a big impact overall. Now, there are also those testimonials, right? People talking about their own experiences.
Oh yeah, he shared a bunch of those. People saying they had less pain, less inflammation, more stamina, even faster wound healing. There was one about this young boy in Denmark, I think, who really messed up his finger, and the inventor was saying the wound healed way faster than doctors expected, thanks to the patch.
Wow. Tough to argue with that, if it's true. But, we got to acknowledge those are just stories, not exactly scientific proof. Important to remember that.
Oh, for sure. As compelling as those stories can be, we can't say for sure that's the patch doing it, not without the science to back it up. Correlation, not causation, as they say.
Exactly. Got to keep our heads on straight. One thing that stood out to me, he talked about these patches helping athletes get, more ripped. How does that fit in with the whole energy thing we were talking about?
So he was saying that by boosting energy production, it kind of pushes your metabolism in a certain direction, so you start burning more fat for fuel instead of relying on sugar. And that, theoretically, leads to less body fat, more of that lean, toned look.
So less about bulking up, more about how your body is actually using the energy. Interesting.
He also tied it back into the glutathione, which we talked about before. Since the patches supposedly increase its production, you get that detoxifying effect too, which, I mean, that's good for everyone, but especially athletes.
Right. So we're seeing a pattern here. Energy, repair, detox, it all comes back to the body doing what it already does, but supposedly better because of these patches. The million-dollar question is, how well do they actually do that consistently?
That's what we need more research for, honestly. It's intriguing, don't get me wrong, but with the info we have now, it's too early to give a definitive answer.
Gotta be cautious, but also, open-minded,
Totally.
Okay, let's take a breath, zoom out a bit. We've covered a lot. the sciencey stuff behind these Lifewave X39 patches, those studies you found, what the inventor himself is claiming, even those testimonials, some exciting hints. But like we said, got to be cautious, need more info. So much to think about already, and we haven't even gotten to the, like, what if part yet. What if these things actually do everything they're claiming?
That's the real head spinner, isn't it? If this tech is legit, we're not just talking about a new product. We're talking about, like, a whole different way of thinking about health and wellness.
A total paradigm shift. Like,
Yeah.
paint me a picture. What does that even look like 10, 20 years down the line?
Imagine a world where instead of going straight for the pharmaceuticals with all their, side effects and whatnot, the first line of defense is actually your body's own healing abilities.
So less about just treating symptoms, more about, like, getting to the root cause and helping your body fix itself.
Exactly. Preventative, regenerative, all that good stuff.
Sounds pretty utopian, honestly. But we got to stay grounded, right? We're working with what we know, and right now there's still a lot we don't know about these patches.
100%. Healthy skepticism, always. But at the same time, we can't let that completely overshadow the potential, because if it works, it's huge.
No doubt. So hypothetically, let's say these patches do live up to the hype. Where do you see this going? What are the real-world implications?
Just in the area of wound healing alone, it'd be revolutionary. I mean, think about it. Faster healing, less scarring, better outcomes for chronic wounds. We're talking everything from surgery recovery to burn treatments, even diabetic ulcers, which are a huge problem. People's lives would be changed.
No question. Okay, what about the anti-aging stuff? It feels like everyone's trying to, slow down the clock, if not turn it back completely. Could these patches actually play a role in that?
Aging is complicated, right? It's not just one thing you can fix. But if these patches really do ramp up collagen production, boost that cellular energy, reduce inflammation, like they're claiming, then yeah, maybe we're talking about a way to age, I don't know, more gracefully, stay healthier, more energetic, mentally sharp, all of that for longer.
So not about living forever, but about those years you do have being better quality.
Exactly. What if age-related decline wasn't inevitable? What if you could actually do something about it? That's the exciting part.
We've also talked about how this could affect athletes, more stamina, faster recovery, even like changing your body composition. Are we going to see these patches becoming like standard equipment for athletes in the future?
It's possible.
Yeah.
If all that stuff about energy, fatigue, muscle repair, if that's all legit, then yeah, athletes would definitely want every advantage they can get.
Well, folks, we have covered some serious ground today. The science-y bits of these Lifewave X39 patches, the research, even what the inventor himself had to say about it all. Important thing to remember, we're still in the early stages here. There's a lot more to uncover, investigate, really understand. But hey, that's what makes these deep dives so interesting, right? New tech, big questions, gotta keep exploring. So keep asking those questions, do your own digging, and who knows what we'll discover next. Thanks for joining us, and we'll catch you on the next one.